have to stand to do this, but I really am short. I'm going to call the commission to order. Secretary Burgess, is there any changes to the final agenda?
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. There's no changes to the agenda this morning.
Before we begin...
Excuse me, Chair. I think you just need to put your microphone on, please.
Did I? I think it's on. Is it on?
Okay.
It's on. It's on. Can you hear me? Do you mean I should put it near my mouth? Before we begin the topics on the agenda today, I'd like, if I could, ask my fellow commissioners to indulge me. I'd like to provide you a brief update on the Comcast-Time Warner merger. As all of you are aware, this is an incredibly complex transaction, and it's a transaction that can have a significant impact on millions of consumers as well as the state's economy as a whole. Because of the significance of these mergers, in fact, the state acted last year to strengthen the public interest standard that the Commission is to apply to our review. As you're also aware, the merger is subject to and is being reviewed by the federal government under federal statutes. We, for our part, have been in the process of developing a very robust record, and that record's been developed through an extensive public comment process, which has included multiple public statement hearings across the state, as well as the solicitation and receipt of written comments as well and reply comments. In fact, we have almost 3,000 comment submissions. Many of them are detailed and extensive from members of the public, elected officials, businesses, and not-for-profit organizations. In addition to our own record, over the last several weeks there have been significant events that warrant further review. Last month, for example, the FCC issued its open internet order that implements net neutrality rules and reclassified internet providers' offerings as telecommunications services under Title II of the Communications Act. That was a dramatic development that we need to consider as we complete our review of the proposed merger. In addition, although other states have approved the merger over the last year, some states like New York, who have large numbers of affected customers, have been involved in a much more comprehensive review. For example, we have been watching with interest the developments in California, whose Public Utilities Commission is also in the midst of reviewing the merger. Our staff is in fact reviewing the arguments and the comments that have been raised in the California proceeding. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about what the delays mean. First, like I mentioned above, the federal government has made some significant rulings over the past several months that has necessitated further review. Second, in and of itself, this is a very complex merger with potentially huge consequences in the state. In fact, as I just noted, other large states, particularly California, are taking their time to review it to make sure that they get the decision right. The FCC, too, has stopped its own clock several times. So to make sure, so for that reason, there should be nothing unusual about the fact that we also are taking time to review this transaction. We appreciate the patience and willingness as we continue the review. We do intend to continue working diligently to complete our review, and we'll bring the matter to the Commission when we are confident we have reviewed all of the relevant facts. We appreciate, again, the patience of all stakeholders, including the companies, but I'm sure you all recognize that it's very critical that our review be complete, and that when we bring a recommended decision to this Commission, it is one that we are assured is in the interest of all New Yorkers. So thank you, and now we can proceed to our agenda. So with that, the first topic we're going to be talking about today is gas safety. And I'm not going to be as long-winded on everything, but I do want to introduce this topic. So as we're all aware, in almost every aspect of what we do, whether it's telecommunications, electric, water, gas or steam, there is a very, very critical safety element in our work. Our commission, as well as the staff, are really in constant pursuit of ensuring that the standards that we impose and the practices that we require both the utilities and other providers to deploy are really best in breed in ensuring public safety. This is nowhere truer than when it comes to gas safety and the gas infrastructure system. We do have a safe gas system in New York. We also have a team of gas safety experts who report through Cynthia McCarran and Kevin Spicer, who reports to Cindy, who are full-time on monitoring, investigating, auditing, and recommending to this commission what we continue and should be continuing to do to assure gas safety. I really want to note, we've mentioned this before, but the team that we have on gas safety is actually recognized by the federal government as some of the best in the nation in the practices that we do. But, and this is really important, is to say that nothing that we can rest on is to say that safety and the practices are static. Rather, as we're going to be talking about today, the vigilance that we apply requires us to constantly review our practices, constantly look for improvements, and use every incident as an opportunity to learn. From a perspective I know of this commission, and I know everyone on this staff, there's virtually nothing that we can say that can adequately express the horror and sadness that we all felt following the East Village gas explosion, the same horror that we felt last year with the explosion in East Harlem. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families and the friends of the individuals who died, and for everyone whose lives were dislocated as a result of that incident. Our own investigations into that proceeding, as well as the East Harlem proceedings, are ongoing, and I want it to be important to note that we have not drawn any conclusions on the causes of those incidents, and the actions that we are being discussed today are really independent of those investigations. It's also important to note that this is Dig Safely Month, and it's a good month for us to stop and review our actions and for the staff to brief us on the things that they're doing and continuing to do to ensure the safety of the system. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Cynthia, who's going to introduce the topics, give us a briefing on the actions we're doing, and then we have a certain recommendations of additional courses of actions that we're bringing to the Commission. So with that, Cindy, proceed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Zibelman and Commissioners. We're here with you today to discuss a comprehensive package of items related to the natural gas system. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. As the Chair mentioned, it is Safe Digging Month, and the department staff and the Commission work very closely with Dig Safely New York. They have two centers, one for upstate New York and one for downstate New York, and everybody should know to call 811 before you dig to make sure that there are no underground facilities, or if they are, they can be located and you can avoid them when you're doing any excavation. As the Chair pointed out, the natural gas system is inherently safe and reliable, but there have been a couple of incidents recently. Staff's not going to comment on those, just to say that our investigations are ongoing. However, there are several other elements which make up part of a strategic plan for natural gas issues, which we would like to discuss today. Increasing safety, including facilitating increased replacement of leak-prone infrastructure, is very important. Adoption of new technologies, including increased methane detection, improvements in communications and interactions with first responders, and closer coordination with municipalities, all will help improve safety. In addition, staff would like to talk a little bit today about distribution network enhancement to bring natural gas service to those wishing to convert from dirtier and costlier fuels. We would like to talk about customer awareness and education, and also workforce development. Regarding improved safety, we want the natural gas system in New York State to be as safe and environmentally benign as possible. To that end, we would like to pursue several actions. First, and foremost, as the chair pointed out, the gas utilities are responsible for operating their systems in such a way as to ensure its safety and to ensure that they comply with all rules and regulations related to the safety of the natural gas system. As regulators, we have the oversight of their efforts and the responsibility to make sure that their focus is on the appropriate things so that the gas system maintains its safety and reliability. As the Commission is aware, the utilities have had for more than a decade safety performance metrics associated with emergency response times, damage prevention, repairing leaks, and replacement of leak-prone pipe, and failure to perform in these metrics results in negative revenue adjustments. These metrics have resulted in continuous improvement in these areas. Every year, staff of the Pipeline Safety Section audit both the records and the activities in the field of the utilities to ensure compliance with the regulations. In order to create an incentive for continuous improvement, the Commission has recently put in place negative revenue adjustments associated with an additional safety metric with the violations of safety regulations in Parts 255 and 261, violations which staff would find during their audits. Metrics to encourage improvements in gas safety need to evolve, as the chair just said. They need to evolve to incorporate lessons learned from incidents, not only incidents in New York State, but in other parts of the country, and also to account for developments such as changes in the regulatory or legislative landscape. There is over $100 million on the line annually across all of the state's gas utilities related to these negative revenue adjustments. This equates to just over 100 basis points return on equity, so that's what's at risk for these utilities if they fail to perform in all of the metrics. However, like I said, the presence of these metrics has steadily encouraged and resulted in improvement in many areas. In addition, the Commission has the authority to impose additional penalties associated with specific incidents. This authority was recently enhanced by the legislature, and it allows the PSC to levy penalties associated with a percentage of the utility's revenues for violations that result in severe impacts to life and property. In the last year, there have been settlements reached under the original law related to specific incidents that resulted in approximately $2 million funded by shareholders, which was directed then at gas safety improvements, including improved communications with first responders and revised and improved utility procedures. Second, the utilities need to replace cast iron pipe and certain types of steel and plastic pipe, which is susceptible to corrosion or cracking. And acceleration of that replacement as much as possible is beneficial, keeping in mind, of course, cost impacts on ratepayers. The Commission has increased authorization of capital expenditures in the last several years. For example, in 2008, expenditures were approximately $823 million. That increased to $1.5 billion expected in 2015, almost doubling spending in 7 years, related to increasing the safety of the natural gas system. Notwithstanding this, in between rate case periods, utilities do not have a mechanism to recover costs associated with increased spending. So Eric Ryder will shortly be presenting a proposal that provides for a possible cost recovery vehicle. Third, customer awareness is an important tool in reducing and minimizing incidents. The Commission started a proceeding last year to improve the utility's public education and outreach programs related to natural gas odors. Aaron Odell Keller will be describing improvements made to utility public education and awareness programs as a result of that proceeding. And this is an example of an improvement opportunity that staff found as a result of an incident. Fourth, although the gas distribution system is surveyed for leaks using sophisticated equipment on a regular basis, Leak detection also relies on the human nose, and as good as both of these are, we need to look for newer technologies that can increase our leak detection capabilities. Stationary methane detection technology could improve gas leak detection and serve as another line of defense against catastrophic events. There is a pilot program underway being conducted by National Grid, working with NYSERC, which is the research and development arm of the Northeast Gas Association, to test the effectiveness of methane detection equipment. Fifth, working with other key stakeholders is extremely important. One of these key stakeholders is municipalities. There are a few areas that I want to highlight that could benefit from closer coordination with municipalities. One example, there was an incident in Schenectady in 2014, after which staff became aware that there were thousands of residences across the state where there are no people living, but there is still natural gas service. The gas service has not been locked. This is because the utilities have been employing a procedure called soft off or office off, which means that the last customer of record was removed from the billing system, so there's nobody receiving any bills, but the gas service, again, had not been physically locked. In many cases, this is because the gas meter is in the basement and the house is locked up and the utility cannot get in with no occupant to unlock the door to let them in. Assistance from local authorities could help them get that access. So working together with municipalities could possibly be allowing service to be locked in a more timely fashion. Similarly, utilities and first responders, especially police departments and fire departments, must work together during incidents involving natural gas. Having people call 911 when they smell natural gas from a leak works well, especially when there's a professional paid fire department. But in some communities upstate, it's not always clear that 911 is as effective. We're looking for how to address this because many customers may not even know whether they have a paid fire department or a volunteer fire department. So we're addressing this going forward. All fire departments need to have adequate training on what to do when they arrive at a natural gas incident and should be able to know what they expect the utility to do when they get there so that everyone has a clear role of their or clear understanding of their roles in an incident. So while gas safety, of course, is our first focus when we're talking about the natural gas system, bringing natural gas service to more people is also a pressing issue. Distribution network enhancement and increased infrastructure will allow residential and commercial customers to convert from dirtier and more expensive fuels, especially fuel oil and propane. This also, not only does it result in savings to those customers because natural gas tends to be much cheaper, it also results in reduced emissions of carbon dioxide and particulate matter, which benefits everybody across the state. There are many communities across the state where people have limited access to natural gas or maybe even no access. Staff gets phone calls almost daily, emails, letters from people across the state looking for natural gas service, asking what can we do to help. A good example is New York City, where the New York City Department of Environmental Protection in 2011 issued regulations that require buildings to convert from the heavier heating oils to the cleanest available fuels, including natural gas and ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel. So having good assets is a prerequisite, but we also need a well-trained workforce to ensure the proper maintenance and operation of the system. Installing new gas mains and replacing old ones, as well as enhancing and accelerating gas main installation and replacement, requires a well-trained workforce. Given that other states in the Northeast also have the same goals as New York, competition for workers has been very intense. However, by signaling that such work is a priority for our state, our utilities should be able to give their employees and the contractor community the certainty that work will be consistent and abundant in New York State going forward. So, with all of that as a background, we will now have two presentations on items that are intended to address some of the issues I just highlighted. So first we'll have Eric Ryder, who is a utility supervisor in the gas and water rates section, discuss an item recommending that a proceeding be initiated to investigate cost recovery for accelerator replacement of leak-prone pipe. After Eric, then Erin Odell Keller of the Office of Consumer Services will discuss recommendations related to public education and outreach related to natural gas odors. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Kevin Spicer, who is the chief of our pipeline safety section, is also here to answer any questions that the rest of us can't answer. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Okay, before Eric, you begin, and welcome to the commission, let me just ask if anyone has any comments for Cindy. And before, I do have one aspect I want to hope, Cindy, you can elaborate on. So you identified a number of different areas that we're pursuing. And just for the commission sort of understanding, the staff is working with the utilities to really develop action plans on these areas. And the expectation is certainly the areas of methane detection equipment, workforce training, as well as how do we work with municipalities and local fire departments. We're not just raising these as good ideas, but we are actively pursuing a way to develop programs so they can actually be effectuated. And the expectation is in every year, we will identify certain key actions that we want to accomplish, and these are some of the ones that staff has identified for this year so that we can continue on this sort of journey of continuous improvement of excellence towards excellence. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, but thank you for a great briefing. Any questions for Cindy? Greg?
So I gather the recommendation, if you have a volunteer fire department and you know it, is to call the utility first if you smell gas?
Well, we think that I'm going to let Kevin address that.
Yes, so you should upstate. There's 911 is the ultimate, and downstate we've worked out the kinks. 911, you call 911 immediately. The fire department finds out, the LDC finds out, and they could both dispatch. They're both dispatched and could both go. We would like to get there upstate. We're not 100% there yet, but we want people to call their utility. And if they don't call their utility, then 911. But we just want to make sure that there is simultaneous dispatch between 911, emergency services if needed, and that call is getting to the LDC so that they can investigate the leak too.
So does the utility number appear prominently in the emergency page in the phone directory, assuming that people even keep the phone directory anymore?
Yes, it does. The LDC phone numbers are listed, and you could call that phone number and you will be directed.
So I think the moral for people who are living upstate, if they know they've got a volunteer fire department, and the way you know is probably you get a letter from them asking for contributions every year. I make sure I always contribute to mine. Is keep that local distribution utility number close to the phone so you know whom to call for the quickest response if you smell gas.
And I think that Erin's going to be updating us on some communication efforts that we're also requiring the utilities to effectuate in order to improve this, right? Yeah, that was a nod. Yes. Okay, Patty?
I just want to jump in on what Greg was saying. I think we have more volunteer fire departments throughout our state than we do paid fire departments. All of Long Island is taken care of by volunteer fire departments. So I think most people on Long Island would naturally call 911. They wouldn't be calling the fire department. So again, when we're trying to educate people, we have to be specific in what we're telling them. You know, it's really important. I believe this education component is really important. We need a good slogan. The state needs to work with the utilities, the municipalities, the local fire departments. This is important stuff.
Right. And I agree.
Okay.
Okay, let's, but these are all good points and actually show why we care and we're constantly pushing these. Let's move on then to the first item, item 101, which is the matter to consider the implementation of a cost recovery mechanism to support the accelerated replacement of infrastructure. So Eric Ryder is going to be presenting this. Welcome, Eric, to the commission. Not to the commission, but to speaking.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Item 101 before you today is a draft order targeted for our gas utilities. The draft order proposes the Commission institute a proceeding for a recovery mechanism to accelerate the removal and replacement of leak-prone pipe, a policy the Commission has long supported in rate cases. There are many benefits of an accelerated leak-prone pipe replacement program, including improved system safety and reliability, as well as environmental benefits in terms of lower emissions. The Commission typically prescribes in rate cases a specified number of leak-prone pipe miles to be removed each year, with the associated costs recovered through base delivery rates. This new proceeding aims to develop a recovery mechanism that would enable further acceleration of the removal and replacement of leak-prone pipe. The national trend in the gas industry is to allow gas companies to recover the cost of specific infrastructure investments between rate cases. As the Commission considers adopting a new recovery mechanism, the draft order instituting a proceeding puts forth a series of questions that will help to shape the emerging policy. All interested stakeholders are invited to comment, and gas companies in particular are asked to weigh in on how a recovery mechanism can help to further accelerate the Commission's leak-prone pipe removal goals. Leak-prone pipe natural gas infrastructure is prone to leak due to the age, material, production, or installation practices, or due to local conditions where the infrastructure was installed and operated. Virtually all new gas pipe placed into service is either plastic pipe or protected coated steel and is not considered to be leak-prone. The current replacement rates complete leak-prone pipe replacement ranges from 11 years to 45 years for mains and a comparable range for services. There may be an additional opportunities to accelerate replacement programs. The delivery rates approved in rate plans reflect forecast removal, replacement, and associated costs, and therefore, all else equal, the additional removal costs above the established removal targets are not funded in delivery rates. Moreover, for expired rate plans, surviving provisions require a gas company to continue to replace leak-prone pipe at targeted levels should the gas company choose not to file for new rates. This is commonly called a stay-out. The mileage targets for expired plans, however, remain at a level of the final year of the rate plan. A gas company that chooses to stay out beyond its prescribed rate plan does not have the ability to recover incremental capital expenditures related to the removal and replacement of leak-prone pipe. If a gas company has no other costs driving it to file for new rates, it may not choose to accelerate leak-prone pipe replacement while it stays out. Therefore, there may be two opportunities to fund an acceleration of removal and replacement programs: funding of incremental mileage above approved mileage targets established in rate plans, and funding of accelerated programs in a stay-out. The Commission has approved mechanisms for system improvements. Water companies have approved system improvement charges, and recently the Commission has approved a surcharge and deferral mechanism in case 14G0214 for National Grid Long Island to accelerate the removal and replacement of leak-prone pipe and for network enhancements. The draft order recommends that the Commission institute a proceeding to develop the most appropriate manner by which to accelerate the removal and replacement of leak-prone pipe without having the gas companies file for new base rates just to obtain the necessary cash flow to support those investments. The Commission should consider how to balance the interest of shareholders by providing gas companies the opportunity to earn a return on invested capital with that of ratepayers in receiving safe and reliable gas service. The new recovery mechanism, in conjunction with rate cases, could further accelerate the number of leak-prone pipe miles removed and replaced and lower the total number of years to remove all leak-prone pipe inventory. New York currently has approximately 12,000 miles of leak-prone pipe, and the gas companies are replacing about 400 miles each year. The draft order recommends establishing a goal to reduce the statewide average replacement timeline to 20 years, which assumes that all gas companies will ramp up their removal and replacement programs in the near term. Moreover, because the current cost of capital is relatively low, an opportunity exists to allow for reasonable customer bill impacts while gas companies further accelerate the rate at which they remove and replace their leak-prone pipe inventory. In the draft order, gas companies are asked to address the new recovery mechanism, as well as specific questions regarding budgeting, tracking, and the mechanics of the new recovery mechanism. Included in the draft order are 18 questions that are categorized into two groups, a group for all interested parties and a group with more specific questions for gas companies. Interested parties are welcome to address the questions and include comments that are relevant to the goals of the recovery mechanism. The draft order identifies two possible solutions for a cost recovery mechanism: a surcharge or a deferral mechanism, and even considers a combination of the two. However, other methods of cost recovery may be proposed. To that end, the draft order asks how should a cost recovery mechanism be designed and comport with public service law provisions on major rate proceedings. Namely, for each of the major gas companies, a major rate proceeding is defined as increasing the total aggregate revenues by 2.5% or more. The draft order also asks interested parties about requiring specific conditions such as modifications of safety mandates and rate-making conditions like updating the carrying charge rate or earnings sharing provisions. Interested parties are asked to consider low-cost financing approaches or other funding sources that could be used to lower the costs of the programs. Gas companies are asked specific questions related to budgeting, tracking, and the mechanics of the new recovery mechanism. The draft order asks what are the most appropriate ways to monitor capital planning, if the current risk ranking process should continue to be followed or should a neighborhood approach be considered, how incremental leak-prone pipe expenditures should be identified in gas companies' capital budgets, and how cost control measures should be used. The draft order also asks how the gas companies should report on the cost recovery mechanism, the timeline it should operate, and how it could impact existing net plant true-up mechanisms. In summary, given the significant safety and environmental related concerns regarding leak-prone pipe, the draft order recommends the Commission consider a new recovery mechanism that can help to achieve the Commission's goals. A well-planned capital investment program from the gas companies that accelerates the removal and replacement of leak-prone pipe will benefit all stakeholders. This new proceeding will provide stakeholders with an opportunity to comment on how best to advance Commission policies. The draft order invites comments within 30 days of the issuance of the order to the Secretary of the Commission. Staff will then compile the comments and develop a proposal for the Commission's consideration at a future session. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Excellent job. I was thinking about this. If we consider competition as sort of the lifeblood of innovation. Stability and certainty is clearly the backbone of good infrastructure development in a regulatory arena. And I believe that the use of this type of mechanism can provide that stability. We really don't like to personalize things, but when I think about the fact that I have a 2-year-old grandchild, the thought that she could be 42 before we replace the leak-prone pipe in New York makes me think that we can do better. So I love the goal of let's trying to get this done within 20 years. I also think that your observations about that this could allow for good planning, a better way to approach it so that we can reduce the cost, thinking about different approaches such as a community basis and mechanisms so that we're constantly doing things in the most efficient way make a lot of sense. I know that individually the commissioners have been looking for something like this to help improve how we're replacing pipe. I think we talked about it at the end of the year. And so I'm very pleased that you've brought this in front of us, and I certainly intend to vote that it proceed. Any other comments? Diane, would you like to?
Thank you. I do want to thank all first responders, including fire departments, whether volunteer or otherwise, that always put the safety of others before themselves, before their own. And they, like us, do work with the utilities before, during, and after any incident in making sure that the priority of safety and the gas system is there. So I just really want to thank them. Many states currently have infrastructure replacement incentives in place to help the natural gas utilities upgrade and modernize their infrastructure. We've been looking at this nationally and been involved in this, and while we have done a lot of the infrastructure incentives in rate cases, we're now looking at other ways to do this. And to me, the commencement of this program is a real opportunity for us. The integrity and reliability of the gas system is paramount. In New York, we're focused on ensuring we have a safe, a reliable, and a clean natural gas system. And today's action by the Commission represents, for me, another step in a continuum undertaken to ensure the transport and delivery of natural gas with the utmost care and safety. In the recent past, we have had several gas initiatives that we're actively engaged in and are very proud of. We're focused on the need for odorization of gas in gathering lines, increased research, development, and deployment of methane emission detection strategies, posting of the locations of leaky pipes, a gas worker training compliance review, expanded utility system inspections, and accelerated replacement rates for leak-prone pipe. New York has a very reliable system that we're working hard at maintaining and improving. We, like other stakeholders, remain vigilant and committed to address any challenges presented. As the demand for natural gas continues to grow due to economic and environmental factors, we must continue to seek common sense, effective methods to ensure its safe delivery while minimizing unintended environmental impacts. For me, the bottom line is finding innovative ways to finance the replacement of leak-prone pipe is critically important to ratepayers. I look forward to the comments that will come in and to drilling down on what the staff will be presenting to us. My focus will be on looking at it from the perspective of how the program will work, what we will be doing to have oversight and safeguard for the ratepayers. So thank you very much. I think this is a great proceeding that we're initiating.
Commissioner Kapoor.
Thank you, Eric, for the presentation, and congratulations. I believe this is your first time before us. You did a great job. I have a question with regard to what are we doing with the federal government? Are there funds available to help states move and accelerate their programs along in this area?
I think we have Rogers.
Yeah, You know, I think Commissioner Berman and several of you have heard at NARUC meetings, the federal government has that new effort that they're doing to look at the infrastructure across the country. I forget the acronym, but the federal government, I think, is just now beginning really to be aware of this problem. I do not know of any programs at this time for the federal government to help states replace this kind of infrastructure, but certainly our hope is that they will see the need for that.
Well, I'm wondering if there should be some sort of either written correspondence or meeting with the federal delegation, our congressional delegation, and our 2 United States senators to bring them up to speed as to what we're thinking and how possibly they can assist in moving something along if something is going to be done. That maybe we could be the first ones to get something.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, Commissioner. I think we'll follow up on that. And in addition to getting hopefully some additional federal funding that will reduce costs to New York ratepayers, we should also look for other ways to reduce costs. We are looking at other innovative financing mechanisms to lower the cost of capital for these kinds of investments.
That was my other thought was, Doris, the street. You know, we really could use some assistance in partnering with the financial institutions to see if there can lower the costs to utilities so that, again, the customer ratepayer doesn't get stuck for the whole thing.
Right. This type of mechanism would be viewed favorably and help, keep the utility bond ratings at their current high levels and keep their cost of debt low. But there are, as Raj indicated, potential other avenues such as securitization, and maybe we can work with our own government-done tax-exempt approaches or something like that.
So on that last point, I think we could also benefit from anytime you put the plant in ground, there'll be property taxes associated with it. To the extent some of these investments are being made to increase safety, enhance safety, these are not necessarily being done to make more money. These may not produce additional revenues, it's increasing safety. So to that extent, we are increasing the safety of the citizens in that locality. Maybe there could be lower property taxes on these kinds of investments.
As we just talked about before when Cindy gave her overview of what was going to be discussed today, always the aspect of communication is so important. So, I can't drive that home. I've been doing it for a long time, in making sure, again, that if we don't reach out to municipalities, they won't know.
Right.
And they'll just go do what they've always done because every level of government is always in a money crunch. And so I think, again, the suggestions are great, but we have to take that one step further and really reach out and connect to all these various groups, the financial institutions, and to the municipalities, and to everyone who has a stake in gas safety in our state.
So this proceeding will be an opportunity for us to explore all these options.
Yeah,
to
I think
reduce
it's
costs.
wonderful, and really congratulate you all on the work that you've done on this.
We, if I may, we don't specifically ask in our questions these other ancillary issues around taxes and securitization, but certainly the people can comment on it, and if we wanted, and if we feel like there's a need, and we could, to do a further analysis on other ways to further reduce the expense. But as Doris pointed out, one of the advantages of moving this type of mechanism is that it creates a certain amount of certainty, and in other states it has resulted in a lower cost of capital for these types of infrastructure investments, which is in and of itself a benefit. But clearly we could, in an analysis, identify other things that maybe we couldn't do, but maybe others could do to help us.
Exactly.
It would be terrific if we could just order the replacement of all leak-prone pipe during this year's construction season. but there aren't enough engineers and construction crews in the United States to make that happen. And if we tried to put those costs on the ratepayers, it would be absolutely horrendous. So this whole process has to be a balancing act in terms of what's technically feasible and what's financially reasonable. I support this item, which addresses the financially reasonable portion of the puzzle. As we've heard already from several folks, it provides the possibility of a lower cost of capital and therefore a lower cost to ratepayers. And overall, I just simply don't see a lot of point in putting utilities at risk of not recovering the costs of what we're telling them they have to do. It just doesn't make sense. So this is a very good exploration, and I hope we can find the way to get it done as fast as possible, as cheaply as possible.
Thank you. And I would be remiss because if I didn't note that when we talk about leak-prone pipe, because now I've been schooled on this, we are not talking about leaky pipe. We're talking about pipe that is leak-prone, and it's what we want to get replaced as quickly as possible. So, if there are no additional comments, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the recommendation to institute a proceeding for the development of a proposal to accelerate leak-prone pipe removal and replacement as described, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition or being none, the recommendation is adopted. And thank you, Commissioners. I think your comments and suggestions here are terrific. Next item is item 102, which is in the matter of a natural gas incident at 198 Joseph Street in Horseheads on January 26, 2011. As the Commission is aware, following that incident, we started on a process to ensure better communication, better outreach, some of the things that have been mentioned previously. And today, Erin Odell Keller, who's Manager of Consumer Education, is going to be reporting to us on this status and next steps. So, Erin, welcome.
Thank you.
And please proceed.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. On February 20th, 2014, the Commission issued an order regarding the natural gas incident that occurred in Horseheads, New York. The order directed gas utilities to perform a risk assessment of their distribution systems to determine if water and sewer facilities were installed subsequent to the gas mains. Staff noted that gas facilities already in place may have been affected by third-party excavations, since water and sewer lines are generally buried deeper than gas lines. These assessments continue, and staff will report back to you at a later time. The Horseheads order also noted that local residents did not report the smell of gas odors prior to the tragic event, and that this incident underscored the need for the gas utilities to improve their education efforts regarding the reporting of natural gas odors. The order directed local distribution companies, or LDCs, to conduct a collaborative to develop best practices to address public education on reporting natural gas odors. In addition, the Commission requested that the LDCs investigate and report back on new ways to reach local government entities to educate them on the potential hazards associated with excavating near gas facilities. Staff enlisted the Northeast Gas Association, NGA, to coordinate and facilitate the collaborative's discussions. In May 2014, the collaborative filed a report summarizing the LDC's best practices for public awareness and education. Staff's review found that the collaborative report did not meet the Commission's requirement of identifying concrete and innovative improvements to each LDC's outreach programs. Staff provided feedback to the collaborative and requested that each LDC provide a separate education plan with details about the company's use of the best practices in their overall education program. Staff provided detailed guidance on what should be in the plans to address the items identified in the February order and through discussions with staff and the collaborative. Staff also encouraged the collaborative to continue to work together to develop an outreach program that would benefit all LDCs. In particular, staff noted that in addition to exploring new ways to reach customers with education efforts, the collaborative needed to examine the messaging used in the LDC's education materials. Staff urged the collaborative to identify the perceived barriers to reporting odors and use that information to develop new messaging that would help overcome these barriers. Staff also encouraged the collaborative to explore innovative use of social media and urged the LDCs to incorporate more social media elements in their education programs. NGA was asked to update their report to address staff's comments. NGA's revised report clarified the best practices for the LDC gas safety education programs and provided details about new initiatives undertaken by the collaborative, including the development of regional safety videos and a statewide social media plan for raising awareness about reporting gas odors. NGA also committed to performing customer behavior research and incorporating the results into more effective messaging for the video and social media campaigns, as well as their education materials such as a scratch and sniff odorant pamphlet that simulates the smell of gas. The research results will also be used to determine the best schedule for NGA's gas safety media campaign that runs in all major markets in New York State. The development of the video and social media campaigns is expected to be completed by September of this year. The revised report also noted NGA's initiative to educate public officials on the potential hazards of excavating near gas facilities by partnering with New York's one-call centers. New York has 2 one-call centers and that allow excavators to provide notice of pending work to all underground facility operators within the proposed excavation area. However, staff found the report lacked detail about the implementation of this initiative. In addition to noting that the updated collaborative report was incomplete in some areas, staff's review of the individual LDC education plans found that they varied in depth and content, and many lacked specific details. Some plans provided sample materials and schedules, while others provided very limited information. In addition, although the collaborative indicated that the LDC plans would discuss the use of a gas emergency number, or 911, many did not address this issue. The plans also did not provide information on how the company would evaluate the effectiveness of its program. Therefore, staff is recommending that the LDCs file revised education plans. The revised plans should describe how the LDC will implement the improved education program, incorporate the results of the collaborative's initiatives, and evaluate the feasibility of developing a 911 odor call program in its territory. The plan should include specific descriptions of messaging, delivery vehicles, schedules, budgets, and evaluation methods to measure the effectiveness of the program. Staff is recommending that the revised plans also include additional best practices identified by staff to improve the company's gas odor education tools. Staff is also requesting that the collaborative provide periodic updates on the status of each of its initiatives. The collaborative should provide a final report by the end of the year with details about the implementation of the initiatives and how they have been integrated into each LDC's programs. Staff will continue to work with the state's gas utility companies to educate consumers about gas safety issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron, for the report. Clearly, when we talk about the gas safety team, I always don't want to neglect the fact that our consumer outreach team under the consumer advocate, Michael Corso, is a critical piece of this because it is, as Commissioner Akinpora said, a constant effort of communication and education. And I think I'm very appreciative of the leadership that staff has taken in working with the utilities and really providing very clear guidance on what we need to do and to set the expectations to make certain that we are on the path for adopting best practices. I think, the fact that I believe, we've just revealed in the report that there's still so many incidences of people not sure what to do when they smell gas, and that need to make sure that not only the public is educated, but public officials. And I know that there's work being done on videos, on education, and also we are scrutinizing what happens when people let their superintendents of their buildings know and what actions are taken there. So it's going to be, again, a continuous effort. I think that the report we're seeing is a really good step forward, and I would fully expect that if the staff sees any lagging on the part of the utilities in implementing it, you will get back to us right away.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? I'll start with Commissioner Akinpora.
Again, thank you for your work, Michael, your staff, in working to make sure that, again, we reach out as much as possible. When you talk about we have, after we experienced the worst tragedy this country has ever seen in 9/11, people learn then if you see something, say something. So we have to develop some kind of a catchy phrase like that so that people, again, everyone worries about gas, but they seem to kind of pass it on. Well, someone else is going to worry about it. I don't have to worry about it today. So I think that every level of age group has to really get trained. So I'm hoping that, they will implement programs in elementary schools, in high schools, visit the senior centers. Let's face it, sometimes when you get older, you don't smell as well as you did when you were younger. So today when we have families living together, maybe a young person will pick up on that smell, but they won't say anything because they don't know. So I think it's really, what you're doing is extremely important, and it's always a work in progress, but I think that we are leading, and just go for it. It's good stuff. Thank you.
I think as we develop the videos, I think it would be a great idea if we can bring them in and on opportunities show them, because it's good to see, and it's also, I think, it's important for us to continue to show how important we see this. Before we go on, one of the things that Cindy mentioned and you talked about is the work with the municipalities. I do think that working with local electeds is very important. They're key to this. And again, as Commissioner Akampora said, so many times one of the things that we find is everybody thinks that somebody else is taking care of it. And it's, I think, a very deliberate program as we proceed on how do we train people as they get into office so they understand how it works will be a very important education piece. And I know we've talked about a way to get to some of the associations and make this part of their training as people come on board. And so ideas around that I would expect for us to explore and then maybe pursue.
I'll jump in again. As a former elected officials have newsletters. So if there are videos that they could have when they go to speak to a group that they can use, because they have great outreach to groups that maybe we may not be thinking about, or even the municipality may not think about. So again, bringing in everybody at every level is really important, and I think these videos will be a wonderful tool.
That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you.
Commissioner Sayre?
Just one minor point about the scratch and sniff pamphlets. I think they're a great idea, but I get scratch and sniff junk mail from perfume companies all the time, and if they come on a really hot, humid summer afternoon, my whole mailbox smells like perfume. So please make sure that the utilities do some really good quality control on that, or we're going to scare the entire state the day they go out.
I was thinking you were going to worry that it would be mixed up with the strawberry snuff scratchings. So, Commissioner Berman.
Thank you. I actually just have two things to say. One, thank you to Eric and to Erin. I know, Eric, this is your first time presenting, and Erin, it's your first voting item presenting. So thank you. The takeaways that I want is really simple. I think this is another item in our continuing effort to ensure the integrity and reliability of the natural gas system. And we've been doing this and continuing to improve, and I think it's very good that we're really laser focused on all of these issues. Really, you can't say it enough. It's important to continue to raise awareness of the New York's one-call notification system. New York has the New York 811, which is the one-call notification system serving New York City and Long Island, and Dig Safely New York is the other one serving the remainder of the state. They both do an incredible job, and the utilities are involved with that as well, and do a significant amount of training and outreach. And it's really a reminder to simply dial 811 before digging. And then the other, which we can't say enough, is if you detect an odor of gas, leave your premises immediately and then call your utility or 911 right away.
Thank you. Thank you. So why don't we move then on a vote on this? And all those in favor of the recommendation to require the Natural Gas Local Distribution Corporation to implement the specific enhancements to their gas safety public education programs as described by Ms. O'Donnell Keller, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the recommendation is adopted. And thank you all. I know from the staff's perspective, this has been a huge amount of effort. I cannot say enough that I know that our gas safety staff in particular is constantly vigilant on the street, first in hand, and as Commissioner Berman said, the coordination with the first responders is critical, but we're fortunate in New York is that we have a crack team. We're looking to expand that team, and we would like, and I want to thank you for all of your efforts. So with that, let's move to the consent agenda. Are there any additional comments to the commissioners on the consent agenda, or do any of you wish to recuse or abstain from any of the consent agenda items?
I will be abstaining from item 262 and item 364.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor of the recommendations on the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, there being no opposition, the recommendations are adopted. Secretary Burgess, is there any other items before us today?
There are no other items today. The next regularly scheduled commission meeting is May 14th at 10:30.
Thank you.